Friends, welcome back again to the channel. I'm Bryce, and this is episode 2 of the Weekly View. This is how this works. I rank everything from my least favorite to my most favorite that I have watched within the last 7 days. I withhold my least favorite and my most favorite movie up until the very end to build suspense, and most importantly, encourage all of you to join in the discussion in the comments below. So let's get into the slate for the second episode. What did I watch within the last 7 days? I watched Alice Darling, I watched Sleepy Hollow, I watched 21 Bridges, I watched Widows, I watched Cocaine Bear, I watched No Escape, I watched Roma, and I thought I was forgetting another movie, but no, that's it. I watched those 7 movies this week. So starting off with my second least favorite movie, or my 6th favorite movie if you want to look at it that way. I choose to look at things positively. I'm going to say is 21 Bridges. This was one of Chadwick Boseman's last performances. May he rest in peace. Phenomenal actor, and he does really well in this movie. And for this week, it's kind of tough because I genuinely enjoyed every movie that I watched. Fortunately, I chose really well, but something had to be at the bottom of the barrel, and 21 Bridges, although it made me feel something and made me feel really excited, it flew dangerously close to the sun at quite a few points. It was on the brink of collapse, I'd say, at about a dozen times. And what I mean by that is it does this thing where certain events happen and occur throughout this police investigation, this crazy night that's going on with all of these cop murders. And the movie is trying so hard to put its own spin on things, but it does stuff within its dialogue, within these events that are unfolding that just make zero sense at all. It's like the movie is kind of hobbling like a newborn baby deer trying to run for the first time. And although the end product is good, it's just not great. It's intense. Performances are good. It's a solid cop movie. Watch it. It's on Netflix, I believe, as of today. Coming up next is my 5th favorite movie that I watched this week, which is Anna Kendrick's newest film, Alice Darling. Alice Darling is a really concise experience. It's one that explores friendship and what happens when you have a friend going through hardship. It tackles really sensitive subjects like mental health, and it does so with really awesome grace, and I was really impressed by the time I finished watching the movie. And having said that, this movie just wasn't elevated to a point where my head just exploded and I was super wowed by the whole experience. I was impressed by the movie's ability to handle really sensitive topics, but other than that, this movie just didn't have a whole lot going for it. Is it a successful film? I think so. I think the quality of it is pretty solid. It's an experience that I was able to resonate and empathize with, which is excellent, but I just won't remember it as the years go on and the time goes by, which is fine. Not every movie is going to be absolutely stellar and amazing. This one was just solid, and that's okay. Coming up next is my 4th favorite movie of the week, which was Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear pulled something off really well. It took the absurdity of its premise and made it work very well in the comedic space. It didn't overcook the absurdity. It made it exactly an experience that was balanced. The actors within it had a level of sincerity yet comedy that this movie really needed to land so that the bear isn't just trying to carry the whole movie. This movie had a couple of notes that landed about 90% of the time, which is always great. Did its humor try a little bit too hard at times? I would think so, especially in the space with the younger actors, the kids in this movie. For me personally, the whole shtick of kids, swearing and doing very adult things is funny to a point, but I've just seen it so many times before that it does get a little old after a while. Like, I think after they did the first joke or two with these kids doing very adult things, I thought, okay, yeah, that's hilarious, but stop it. That joke has been played out so many times before already. However, I gotta give mad props to Elizabeth Banks for executing this movie pretty solidly. Although I think the movie is a little scatterbrained at times, gets stretched a little bit too thin with too many characters, I walked out of this movie being happy that I watched it and having a great time with it. All right, coming up on my 3rd most favorite movie that I watched this week is No Escape, starring Owen Wilson, Lake Bell, and Pierce Brosnan. This movie came out years ago, like 2015, 2016, and this was one of the few roles that I know of where Owen Wilson has a serious situation to deal with, and boy, does he crush it. Him, Lake Bell, and Pierce Brosnan all work very well in this movie to create an experience that is constantly perilous, it's constantly thrilling, and it really does execute well in that space. You are fearing for their lives pretty much for the entire movie. The movie very seldomly makes stops along that journey, and when it does, I will say it does bring the movie to a screeching halt. But when it's on the gas, it has these really creative ways of exploring the situation that they're in, which is what happens when you're being hunted by people who are inhabiting this land and they just want to basically kill you and your entire family. How do you handle that subject? He's got his 2 younger daughters with him. He's got his wife with him. How do they navigate this situation? They have no idea where they are. It was just really, really exciting. I deeply enjoyed it. I will say I wasn't able to put together the dots of the political background that this movie had. There's a couple scenes in here where it does talk about it briefly, but now that I'm trying to recollect, none of that really, it felt out of place in the movie. The movie, in a nutshell, set out what it needed to do, or what it wanted to, which is to be a thrilling experience for an hour and a half to make me feel something, and that's all I can ask for. All right, so now, the runner-up for this week, my second favorite thing that I watched, was a movie called Roma, which actually came out in 2018 and is a Netflix original film. This movie is a Mexican tale and is about this woman named Cleo. Cleo is a maid for this family in the film, and it explores her trials and tribulations and kind of tells 2 different stories here. One, what the family that she is working for, the bird's eye view of them and this tragedy that's kind of unfolding in their family, and also her own life and how she's navigating the cruelty of humanity, yet the sincerity and love of it. This movie is an Academy Award-winning film, and I'm not surprised because it's definitely reaching for some really deep themes. The main one that I walked away from this movie is not only the juxtaposition of the cruelty of humanity, yet the love and sincerity that it can show all of us. Admittedly, was I blown away by this movie and I'm gonna remember it for the rest of my days? No, but did it really make me feel something like tragedy and sadness and deeper stuff? Yeah, it totally did. It just told a tale that I myself haven't really seen too often before, and I really appreciated it for it. And this film is deep to the point where I couldn't quite pick out everything it was trying to tell me, but it still made me think and have some things to unpack, which won't be everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I really enjoy that kind of thing. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, what were my least favorite and my favorite things of this week? My favorite thing that I watched this week was Widows, which was directed by Steve McQueen and came out in 2018. Widows was just on a whole new level. This was a heist movie that had all the ingredients of a heist movie, yet was elevated by every single actor in this film and was deepened by the excellent writing that this film also possessed. Sure, you could just have a fun, interesting heist movie that does just that. It pulls off a heist. But this movie does something really interesting where it operates in this landscape of political parties, of 2 rivaling politicians who are trying to become the power holder of this certain district of Chicago. And within that, you've got these women who are grieving the loss of their husbands, what kind of conundrum that puts them in. And when the movie is exploring the themes that arise out of that from the perspective of all of these different widows, it's just absolutely fascinating. And it even explores the deeper thoughts of these 2 warring politicians against each other and has some really interesting conversations around that. This movie can just go on forever and it's phenomenal. It even provides some twists and turns, some excitement to get your blood pumping. It pulls off being so many things at once, yet being digestible enough so that if you're a general moviegoer, you'll still really enjoy it. And for those of you who are interested, it's on Amazon Prime Video as the time of this recording. Which will bring me into my least favorite movie this week, and it was Sleepy Hollow. This was the Sleepy Hollow directed by Tim Burton, starring Johnny Depp, which actually was made in 1999. And I gotta give this movie credit. I still enjoyed it. Like I said, I liked every movie that I watched this week. It's just unfortunately this had to be the least favorite. But the movie didn't feel like it was made in 1999. Like, I was actually really impressed by the quality of it. The special effects were pretty solid. It really felt like a movie that was made at least in the 2000s. Johnny Depp is doing what he's doing best. He's this very interesting fellow who's a little bit off, maybe a little bit quirky. The mythology around it all was really interesting. It was kind of fun to explore. The movie was really grotesque and wasn't afraid to be. This would be actually some really ideal Halloween viewing because this movie is spooky, which is exactly what it's going for, and it hits that note quite well, but it's not much else. It's attempting to operate in the guise of this grander conspiracy and mystery, but honestly, if it wasn't for some exposition toward the end of the movie, it would have completely lost me because the mystery is a little hard to follow. It's trying to be a spooky movie, yet a conspiracy investigative movie, and it's a little bit more spooky, but it falls really short on the conspiracy mystery part of everything. So friends, just to recap my list from the last week, from least favorite to most favorite, it goes Sleepy Hollow, Alice Starling, 21 Bridges, Cocaine Bear, No Escape, Roma, and finally, Widows. Friends, that'll do it for the second episode of the Weekly View. I invite you, if you feel strongly about any of these movies, to join in the comments section below for some fun discussion. And thank you so much for watching another video. I greatly appreciate it. If you like this or thought it was helpful, I'd be honored if you consider clicking the like button, clicking these end cards up above, or the links down in the description below for your viewing pleasure. Once again, I've been Bryson. Until next time, have a great day.